The Capilano Courier attended the CSU's annual general meeting, and this is a recap video summarizing all the important things that happened at that meeting. What is an annual general meeting? It is a necessary part of any nonprofit organization in order to keep their status as a nonprofit organization. The most important thing is the approval of the audited financial statements. That's a requirement for them to maintain their status as a nonprofit organization. But there's other things that come up as well, such as bylaw changes and petitions from members of the Capilano Students Union. After the meeting chair was ratified and the agenda was approved, it moved on to the presentation of the audited financial statements. This was pretty typical. One significant change that was noticed in the budget from last year compared to now is the changes in the amount spent for external advocacy. This was because the Capilano Students Union has left the Canadian Alliance of Student Associations, and they're focusing more on their own advocacy. So they're spending that money on meeting with government officials and external partners such as TransLink to meet with them and advocate for student needs. After the presentation of the audited financial statements, they were approved by the membership of the Capilano Students Union, meaning the students who attended the meeting, and then the independent auditor was reappointed for next year. The next item on the agenda that was discussed was the consideration of special resolutions. All of these were related to bylaw changes. The first one was a bylaw amendment related to executive reports. The motion read, "Be it resolved as a special resolution that the bylaws be amended by adding a new bylaw to read as follows. If a member of the executive committee fails to submit 3 or more written reports that they are required by policy of the board, then the president must notify that member of the executive committee of non-compliance. If within 30 days of this notice, a member of the executive committee has failed to submit the missing written reports for which the president has given notice, then that executive committee member may, having received at least 2 weeks' notice, may be removed from office by a 2/3 resolution of the board." Meaning, if they fail to submit their report after they were given minimum 2 warnings, then they could be removed from the board if the board votes on it and they receive 2/3 majority. Here's a clip of the different discussion that arose about this motion at the annual general meeting.
If they don't present 3 reports, then that would mean that for 3 months they didn't do their responsibility of submitting reports plus 1 month of they're having a chance to present these written reports. So that would be like a term of having someone not presenting reports. I think it should be a lot late.
This was one part of a series of changes that were approved by the previous board. So a piece that is not pictured here is, yes, theoretically it would have been 3 months of non-compliance by an executive. During that time, though, as the executives know from their red underlined emails warning them of this each month, if an executive doesn't submit a written report, we also just stop paying them until they do submit it. So 3 missing reports is probably unlikely, but it's not as though there are no consequences in the interim. Their pay would be withheld in its entirety until the reports are submitted.
Okay, yeah, that changes things.
And short answer, yes, you can propose amendments. I'm going to put an asterisk there. Amendments have to still be within the scope of the notice for special resolutions. So there are some amendments that we wouldn't be able to admit on the floor of the meeting without reissuing 14 days notice for the motion. So short answer is probably, but we could help you through that.
Okay, no, if they're having like their pay suspended until they file the reports, I think this works. Yeah, thanks.
Seeing no more discussion, we will go to a vote. Be it resolved as a special resolution that the bylaws be amended by adding a new bylaw 14.6 to be read as follows. You've got the text of the motion. All those in favor, please raise your voting cards and keep them held high so that we can count.
I think there'll be an overwhelming majority.
Okay, all those opposed, please raise your voting cards and keep them held high so we can count them.
It's approved.
Motion carried unanimously.
So the next bylaw amendment was related to the academic standing and director eligibility in elections. This bylaw change would change the paragraphs under the bylaws to make it so further eligibility rules established by the board in order to be eligible to be nominated, to run for, or to accept office as a director of the society, meaning the CSU, At the time they're nominated for election, and if elected, then they must meet the following requirements: having a cumulative grade point average at the university of at least 2.0 if the member has completed at least 9 credits of studies at the university, and B, consent to the society requesting and the university providing the information about the member's academic standing at the university, including personally identifiable information that is required to verify the member's satisfaction of the academic standing requirements in these bylaws. And this consent must be effective from the time that the member submits a nomination form, and if elected, until the member later ceases to be a director. And any revocation of this consent is also deemed to be a withdrawal from the election process, and if and once elected, a resignation from the board. This bylaw change essentially means in order to run for elections for the CSU board, or to be nominated for any of these positions, or to run in the university's board of governors or in the Senate, then there will now be a GPA requirement of 2.0 minimum in order to be eligible. Otherwise, you could be removed. This was passed, so now that is a new requirement in order to stand in the CSU elections or to be a student senator or board of governors representative. The next bylaw change is in bylaw 14 by adding a new paragraph as follows. The following individuals are prohibited from being nominated, running for, or accepting office as the director of the society, whether elected under Bylaw 8 Section 1 or Bylaw 8 Section 5. Invited to join the Board of Directors under Bylaw 7 Section 1G or H or in any other manner, and if a current director later becomes prohibited under this section, then the director's seat is vacated. A full-time employee of the society, the university, any other student society, or any national or provincial student organization, whether or not the society is a member of that national or provincial student organization. Any employee, officer, or director of the Capilano Courier Publishing Society, except that a person who is only a contributor and holds no other office at the Capilano Courier Publishing Society is not thereby disqualified. Any person who has been dismissed by the elections administrator or the arbitration panel by reason of election campaigning misconduct in either of the previous general elections or by-election. Any person for whom one or both of their cumulative grade point average or term grade point average are less than 2.0 for 2 consecutive academic terms, or for whom one or both of their cumulative grade point average or term grade point average are less than 1.67 for any one academic term, or any person who has been suspended or required to withdraw by the university other than on an interim basis, whether for academic standing, conduct, or any other reason. But a director who is suspended or required to withdraw shall not receive their seat declared vacant until all university appeal options have been exhausted, and if an appeal is successful, the director may remain in office. These bylaw changes are changes to election eligibility. Those individuals who meet those following conditions are not eligible to be nominated, run for, or accept office as a director of the Capilano Students Union. This bylaw change was voted on at the annual general meeting and passed with a majority. The next bylaw amendment was related to biographies and campaign platforms. The motion read, "Be it resolved as a special resolution that the bylaws be amended in bylaw 8 by adding a new paragraph 16 as follows. In order for a person to be nominated for any general election or by-election, and in addition to any other requirements in these bylaws or the election policies, a person must submit as part of their nomination papers a portfolio that includes at least A biography statement of at least 1,000 characters and no more than 2,500 characters, which must include an overview of the candidate's academic, volunteer, leadership, and personal achievements, and B, a campaign platform of at least 2,000 and no more than 5,000 characters, which must include the nominee's proposed priorities for both the society as a whole and the portfolio for which they're seeking to be a nominee. The society must display a nominee's portfolio either on the society's official website or on an alternative digital platform approved for by that purpose by the board. This change was passed will require candidates in the CSU elections to submit a biography and their campaign platform. This will help students to better understand what these candidates stand for and what they hope to achieve, to help students better inform their decision for how they vote. The next bylaw amendment that was passed is mandatory candidate forums. The motion read, "Be it resolved as a special resolution that the bylaws be amended in bylaw 8 by adding a new paragraph 17 as follows. If a candidate forum or debate is organized pursuant to an election policy and under the authority or supervision of the elections administrator as part of a general election or by-election, a candidate who misses the forum or debate without the written approval of the elections administrator is disqualified as a candidate." In the past, the Capilano Courier has helped organize candidate forums as part of the election election. This change is making attending these candidate forums a requirement unless you have explicit consent from the elections administrator, and if you don't attend these, then you will be disqualified from the election. All of these bylaw changes were voted on by students at the annual general meeting, and they were all voted on unanimously. So these bylaw changes are now in effect. The next section on the agenda was related to student petitions. Any member of the Capilano Students Union has the ability to make a petition about any issue that they feel is important, and if you get 100 students to sign on to that, it will be added as an item to the annual general meeting for regular students to vote on for if the Capilano Students Union will adopt this or not. The first petition is pressure on CapU on Israel war against Gaza and Lebanon. Motion reads, be it resolved that the Capilano Students Union advocates for Palestinian students and advocates for Capilano University to make a statement on the Israel war against Gaza and Lebanon and to release information about the university's investment portfolio. When petitions are submitted by students, the person who made that petition has a chance to speak on it first to explain why they think this is important. Here's a clip from the annual general meeting of the person who submitted this petition speaking to it before opening the floor up to discussion for more comments before it is voted on.
Hi, can everybody hear me okay? Awesome. Okay, so I'm Olivia. I'm from CAP Students for Palestine, and this is our agenda item. Our motion is made of two fundamental parts. First, we want Capilano University to acknowledge the conflict that's going on right now in Israel's war on Gaza. Why do we want that? Because it affects students at Capilano University and faculty and staff. It's not like a faraway reality. It's something that people are personally affected by, and Capilano University has a history of acknowledging that in statements. For example, when the war in Ukraine started, the president wrote a letter that, explained resources for Ukrainian students and directed them towards support. And that's important because it shows that the university is supporting its students in a difficult time. Now, saying that what is happening right now in Gaza and Lebanon is not a difficult time is, in our opinion, unacceptable. The second part of our motion is to get Capilano University to release its investment portfolios and financial records in general so that we can move progressively towards divestment. That is really important because Israel's war on Gaza is not, as I said, a faraway reality. Israel's war effort can only exist with international funding. That is funding from countries such as the US and Canada too, indirectly through its sales of munitions to the US, and private companies. Private companies have investors. Universities are investors. Capilano University, in specific, through its partnership with the Royal Bank of Canada, is an investor in General Dynamics, which is a weapon manufacturer that creates bombs that are used in Gaza right now. We're talking about genocide. It's important that we vote to pass this motion because being silent about this means being complicit in the deaths of 40,000 Palestinians. 11 of those 40 are children. We cannot be complicit in this. And in our small way, we must do something. And so I propose that the Capilano Students Union pressure Capilano University to making a statement and releasing its financial records. Thank you very much. If you have any questions for me specifically, let me know.
All right, this motion is a simple majority vote. All those in favor of the Capilano Students Union advocating for Palestinian students and advocating for Capilano University to make a statement on the Israel war against Gaza and Lebanon and to release information about the university's investment portfolio, please hold your voting cards high. All those in favor? Thank you very much. All those opposed, please raise your voting cards high. Thank you very much. Motion carried.
Next petition that was discussed at the annual general meeting was related to campaigning in classrooms during elections. So the motion for the petition about campaigning in classrooms during election read as follows. Be it resolved that the members rescind the changes made by the Board of Directors on September 6, 2024 to the election procedures, prohibiting classroom talks and thereby reinstating classroom talks as a permitted campaign activity. Here's some clips from the annual general meeting showing exactly what that's about and the discussion that came up around it.
I have participated in 3 of the CSU elections. And I'm sure if you've been here for any one of those elections, you've witnessed various levels of intensity of campaign activity in the hallways and cafeteria. I think that the decision to ban campaigning in classrooms will only intensify that harassment type of vibe with campaigning. And the majority of students I talk to would prefer to be talked to in a classroom setting as opposed to being stopped in the hallway. I've had friends tell me they were harassed in the bathroom about elections, which is absolutely ridiculous. I've talked to teachers about it. The majority of teachers actually like to see their students getting involved in leadership. And this change is not in the best interest of students. I'll read out the rationale that was put here. Campaigning in classrooms is sometimes very disrespectful for the candidates. Some instructors will not allow candidates to do that. Also, some students will make candidate feel uncomfortable during the campaign by ignoring them. So my suggestion is to prohibit campaigns in the classroom from next elections. So yeah, that is all about candidates that chose to run in these elections, and it was always up to the instructor's discretion to say no or yes for the student campaigning in the classroom. And they had up to 5 minutes to do their campaign, and the instructor always had the right to cut them off. So this isn't saying that you have to campaign in classrooms, but I don't think it is right to take away that option, and that is just gonna make election issues worse for everyone who is on campus. And I don't think any of us want that. And yeah, I think students should have the freedom to campaign in whatever ways are accessible to them, and it should be accessible, and students should have the right to do that. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Yuvraj, and as Sanchit said, I strongly agree with him, and every opinion is respected, first of all, right? And it's just my saying that even I agree that campaigning in classrooms should not be there because, as he said, that the teaching flow and stuff, every student pays a lot of money, to get that knowledge, to study. And there are many students, like especially I would say international students, who are in that phase where they are facing lots of problem in, understanding and catching up with them. Because it's not shameful for us, but it's somewhere that, yeah, we try to cope up and many of us are doing excellent. But there are few who are really facing problems and issues, and everybody wants to utilize their time efficiently. So in classrooms, even there are many students who are very much interested in politics and stuff. So there are lots of ways to catch up, and there are lots of ways you can reach out to candidates and to different students, to see what, to take the suggestions or to guide what you guys are up to and what are your plans, so that they can hear you and they can, make a decision that whether they want to vote or not. Being a candidate, even if I would talk about myself, I haven't campaigned in classrooms. I haven't asked, student to vote. And even if like somebody said that, yeah, they should ask professors, of course, they're respected and everybody needs to ask them, but there are 20 students sitting in the classroom as well. Not everybody has the same opinion. Not everybody wants to, engage in that. So that's totally a particular preference. And if a student leader wants to campaign, they have many areas. They have library launch. They have, many different areas of universities. They can catch up students and merge, but why just in, their study time? So we are paying for each and every minute covered, and we are paying really a high amount, and I guess that needs to be respected. Rest everybody's opinion, as I said, is respected, So that's just my saying. Thank you.
This is a 2/3 majority vote. All those in favor, please raise your voting cards and keep them held high. Sorry, can you please, if you're voting in favor, please keep your voting cards held high. Are you holding yours up? 32. You got 32? All those opposed to the motion, please keep your cards held high. The motion is defeated. The motion does not pass.
The last petition at the CSU annual general meeting was board attendance and retroactive policy implementation changes. The motion read, be it resolved that the members, A, rescind the decision of the board of directors to delay the implementation of in-person and camera-on attendance requirements in the board meeting policy from May 31st to September 1st, and B, prohibit the board of directors in the future from making retroactive changes to the implementation date of a policy. Here's a clip from the annual general meeting showing the discussion that came up around this petition.
And it has two parts, this motion, and we're gonna vote, I guess, for each of the parts individually? Together, okay, never mind. So basically what a policy does is that it sets a rule for everyone afterwards. So policies are not just for this board, it's for all the boards that comes afterwards. And so the thing is that the policy has a date that says, okay, from today, this policy, people have to follow this new rule that we all agree that it's important. So it turns out that the board can change this date. So for example, if we say this is the new rule from January, they can say, okay, but for this reason, we're gonna push it to February. And so they can break the rule during January and nothing happens. So I think this is dangerous, and that's why that B is to not allow, if we set a policy, then we cannot change the date so that some people can break this rule for this amount of time and then say, okay, from now onwards, we are actually gonna, follow the rule. So that's B. And now A is the example that happened. So Chris, could you let us know approximately what's the compensation for each board member for assisting a board of directors meeting?
Yes. So it's not on a per meeting basis. The board fees and expenses policy pays to board members approximately $380 a month. And for the executive team, it's bi-weekly. It's just over $900 before tax for vice presidents and just over $1,000 before tax for the president every 2 weeks.
Thank you, Chris. So I think because board members make such an important job, which is to make decisions on our behalf, they're paid fairly for their time to sit and attend these meetings. So what has been happening, I guess, since COVID, because we had to move our meetings into online, and it's an important thing because people live so far away, so it's important that they have the option of assisting online. However, if you're paid a fair amount to just sit there, listen, give your opinion, and discuss, then they agree that it's not fair for people to sit in the meetings with their cameras off and just introducing themselves at the beginning and then say nothing else during the whole meeting, sometimes not even voting. So because this is not okay, they created a policy that says, okay, if you're gonna assist online, it's okay, but you have to have your camera on for at least 65% of the time. And because maybe you have to go to the washroom or whatever, but you have to have your camera on. And and then you have to be in person a certain amount of times. Anyway, there was this policy to regulate online assistants in meetings because, they're being compensated to be there. So we should be able to, and I'm not saying this board in particular. I don't know which board members are not fulfilling this policy. This is not personal, and we're not supposed to be focusing on individual cases. We're just thinking from now on, we don't know if future board members are gonna be online paying attention, trying to make the best decisions for students. So we have to make this policy like bulletproof. It needs to take into account that maybe some people are just putting they're just wearing their AirPods and then doing whatever else with their camera off or watching a show or whatever. So it's important to see that they're actually paying attention and that our student fees are going to good use. So I think because we can agree that it's not okay to change the dates on policies, what happened is that for this board accountability policy that said that they had to have their cameras on, they changed the date. So it was supposed to be starting in April, but they changed it to September. So during those months, there were some people that were eligible for removal because they were not fulfilling these rules. So they changed it to September, and now it's like they had 2 strikes, and they were I don't know how many strikes, but they were 1 strike away from being removed, and they changed the date of the policy, and now they have 0 strikes again. So I think that's not fair. So,
Was passed by us after absent were marked for us, and when I was this motion is against me and our VP Equity Dilkaran and our 2 of the board members more. So for my reason, if I say I was in India, I went there for an emergency. There was my family member passed away, so I didn't attend any training session. So I was not there for it. The camera should be on. So I always attended a weekly meeting with Chris, and I usually attended those with the camera off. And when I came back, I came in July. So I was it skipped out of my mind, the camera should be on. But I and Dilkaran attended those meetings, and we worked well. And it's not like we haven't attended those meetings and it's marked as absent. So I think 4 or 5 meetings were marked as absent. So Chris and Angar told me these are marked as absent, and if 1 more absent, then we must be removed from this position. So we were unaware, and but I told them we attended those meetings, and we just passed this motion that this will take place after September. And because in summer everyone is on vacation and everyone is outside, sometimes they can't on the camera.
I'm sorry, I'm gonna steer the conversation back. Let's make sure that we're focusing on the policy at hand and not individuals. Thanks.
Yeah, no any individual, just telling the reason why it was marked as absent. So this is the reason why the camera was off. But after they told us the camera should be on, me personally, I always attended meeting in person, not online. So this is all what I can say. Why it's marked as absent all the meetings.
So the motion that we're considering is just point A. So be it resolved that the members rescind the decision of the Board of Directors to delay the implementation of in-person and camera-on attendance requirements in the board meetings policy BD 10 from May 31st, 2024 to September 1st, 2024. All those in favor, please raise your placards and keep them held high so we can count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Thank you very much. All those opposed, please raise your placards and keep them held high. The motion is defeated. Be it resolved that the members prohibit the Board of Directors in the future from making retroactive changes to the implementation date of a policy. This is a 2/3 majority vote. All those in favor, please raise your placards high. Are you meeting to vote in favor or against, you in the orange? Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. All those opposed? Thank you very much. The motion is defeated.
The next item that was on the agenda was the annual report of the Board of Directors. But before this discussion could be opened, there were several pods of people attending the annual general meeting that stood up and left before this discussion could be opened.
I have a sneaking suspicion
That we just lost quorum.
quorum just walked out the door, acknowledging that we've run over our original time.
Because all of these people stood up and left the meeting, they lost quorum, so they couldn't continue the meeting and present the report from the Board of Directors. That's a summary of what happened at the CSU annual general meeting on October 29th, 2024. We hope this video was helpful for you to summarize the important changes that were decided on at this annual general meeting. Thanks for watching.